honestly, I think that the wind chill numbers are mostly hype.
Dude,
Okay.
That's not true.
I do. I think wind chill is mostly hype. I think it's about getting eyeballs and clicks.
Oh my gosh. Dude.
I don't.
Is it just hype when you ride your motorcycle? Because it's the same concept. But
Yeah.
you know this. If it's 40 and you're going 60, then
That's
it's
20.
20, right.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing outside.
Yeah, but like, how do you dress when it's 20? You're fine.
Robustly.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going outside. You know, I'm not going outside, bro.
I know.
Don't get me wrong. Like, my game plan, layers.
Layer up.
Like, layer up and staying home.
Yes.
If you can stay home, stay home. That's my game plan.
Absolutely.
Hashtag no regrets.
I mean, even -9.
That's cold.
That's the coldest it's ever been here, as far as I can remember. It's probably been colder at some point, but in my lifetime.
And what's going on now is it's windy, and that's particularly interesting here in Cincinnati for me because my house is an old Victorian with louvered windows from the 1960s.
Yes.
Let's yeah. I mean, that's like pre-AC.
Yeah, that's rough. Dude.
That's why. It's because back then you wanted windows that could close enough, and they had coal burning fireplaces, like 5 of them, all with rookwood tile and all that. Very nice house, you know, and you could be near a fireplace right here in this room, and downstairs in 1, 2, 3 different rooms, and in the bedroom next door to mine, there were fireplaces in all those rooms.
Right.
As well as a wood stove in the downstairs kitchen.
Oh.
So the house was, you'd flame up some dinosaur bones, and that was the winter was like that.
Right.
And then in the summertime when it was unbearably hot, it gets hot here.
You would just be hot.
No, you'd open up all these louvered windows and have total airflow, and that's a pretty good game in the 60s, 50s and 60s. But now it's like, we have efficient heating. Don't let it out.
Don't let it out, they say.
You can't have your city cloaked in fossil fuel smoke every winter for the whole winter.
Yes.
So keep all your heating inside. Now the guys with louvered windows are playing catch up. I've replaced I think I've got 18 more windows to go. So I've replaced a lot of windows. It's got a lot of windows in this place.
Yeah.
It's fine.
They're kind of intense to replace as
well. We are replacing the one in this office with a storm door. Went and got my model number. I'm going to pick that up as soon as we get in the 20s and 30s and go pick up that storm door. And we'll have a storm door walkout onto the front porch roof.
Yes.
From the office here. We'll get rid of the Poshmark stuff from here. We'll move that. And when the weather gets nice, we'll be able to chill on the front porch.
Is there literally enough room out there to sit 2 people on chairs?
Well, the door's going to open out.
Yes.
So it'll mess up. But yeah, you can take a folding chair out there and sit.
Yeah,
there's a flat platform underneath this window.
It's relatively small though.
But I thought, what's stopping us? And now, what's stopping me from building an observation deck on there?
Nothing.
I'm saying.
And city code.
I don't know. Is there city code about that?
I don't know.
We'll find out.
I don't know.
I have a lot of city code questions.
Yes.
I do. Everything I've done so far has not been necessary to get code on, but I need to ask them a question about my next project.
I've heard that you're supposed to get permits for putting in new windows and stuff like that, but nobody ever does.
I don't believe it.
Yeah. Well, even if that's true, I don't believe in
right.
that.
I'm saying wow, that's probably true.
Yeah.
It's absurd enough to be true.
Yes, it really is.
Yes, it is.
Which is brutal.
Yeah. So, I don't buy the wind chill thing.
Dude, I don't...
Tell me it's 9 degrees and windy.
-9.
Was it? It wasn't -9.
It was, dude, I shit you not, it was -9.
Last night?
This morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, it was -9.
-9?
Yeah, dude, it's probably -2 right now.
Yeah, pull it up, Luke.
What's crazy? It's 0 currently in Cincinnati right now. It feels like
it's gusting at
22.
It's gusting at 40 miles an hour right now.
Yes.
It is.
Well, and really the crazy part is that yesterday it was probably around 50 degrees, 45, 50 degrees.
It was warm.
So the swing that we're seeing right now is crazy. I saw on Facebook today somebody was saying that in the Rockies the swing was like wind chill to wind chill was like 110 degree swing or something. I mean, it was insane, like so much.
A fun experiential thing I've experienced is that in the winter times I get cold and then I get sick.
Dude,
what's with getting sick in the winter? I guess we're cooped up.
It's the vitamin D. It's got to be.
I took some vitamin D. I took.
Do you take it every day?
What is one of those little pills? 1,000 units. International units.
It depends on what. Yeah, some of
the
them.
standard issue. Is it 1,000? They do them in thousands, right?
Yeah, they're weird.
So I just took 3,000 international units of vitamin D, and I hear that you could take 5,000 or 6,000 and not hurt yourself.
Yes.
Is it true?
It is. I think I've heard somewhere in my brain 4 a day seems to be the number.
I was rocking last week. I was rocking 3 in the morning and 3 in the evening.
Ooh.
And then I tapered off into a lower dosage, aka I forgot to take any.
That's like being fired and just saying I'm between opportunities right now.
Between opportunities to take vitamin D right now.
I'm between opportunities, bro.
Oh my gosh.
Do you want to start this pod beam?
Yeah, let me pull it up here. Let me close on.
You're missing critical content right now.
Oh, this is critical. The content criticality is registering off the charts right now. Oh, gracious.
That's so funny. You know, the thing I don't understand about vitamin D is I've heard that we call it vitamin D, but somehow it's a hormone.
I know.
It stores in your fat somehow.
Yeah, it's fat soluble. That's why you have to be careful with when you take fat solubles. You got to be careful with those. That's what someone told me, and I really believed them hard.
What?
They were probably a doctor. I don't know.
Dude, this one's not even.
Vitamin A you can get sick from.
This one's not turning on.
Water solubles. What? Not even turning on? You're kidding me. Will mine turn on? Mine turned right on. Let's see it. Well, we're going to set to charging these then. We're not recording a Podbean yet.
Son?
Well, let's fart around here on Facebook for a second.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I've been known to slum with the hoi polloi.
The hoi polloi. Our 2 listeners on there right now.
Absolutely.
Just bombed.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, if you're with us right now, we'd like to ask, don't you have anything better to be doing?
Does your mom know you're watching?
Seriously. Like, your parents are disappointed right now. They're really...
We just lost somebody.
Yeah. Just driving them out.
Just
driving. I wouldn't want to watch. I don't come to Facebook to watch long-form live videos. They're a bummer. They are.
And why do we do so many of them?
Because some people listen through them.
Like Sam Cook and one friend.
I've literally got... I don't know, dude. The viewership on some of the videos is in the 300s and 400s.
Really?
Yeah. Well, viewership might just be dipping in for a second, but that's like a way larger number of people than we get on any of these like drop down things.
Well, yeah, I don't understand because it says we got 2 people, but sometimes it'll say we have 0, but then people are commenting.
Don't know. Don't care. Okay. DKDC, man. DKDC. Don't care. All I care about is that we put out. We're gonna put our hearts out there for people to stomp on them.
Dude, somebody says, "Give me a reason to stay." We don't have one.
For the smiles.
Yeah, look at all the smiling.
Stay for the smiling.
That's so funny.
Oh, that's great.
I love it. Give me a reason to stay.
Got a call this morning from a friend who runs a small brand out in Arizona. Loved hearing from him. He will remain nameless right now to protect the innocent, or I don't know, to protect the relatively innocent, the marginally innocent, the not innocent at all.
Yeah, I don't know.
I enjoyed my chat with Arizona this morning. They're suffering through 50-degree weather.
Some prayers.
Here's my take on folks that have weather. Listen. So you've got a cold weather winter. What do you do? Well, first of all, we've touched on this in a couple other podcasts. It's a fact that if you're not skating year round and you're not an insane physical talent, the odds are high you're going to be a lower level talent in skateboarding. It's just high odds. You're going to be relegated to the great unwashed mass of those of us who we do not come correct. We come as we are.
Yeah.
And I think that there's more than just room at the table for that. I think that's what the table was set for in the first place.
Here.
Your old Bill Danforth has said before, you know, they say, who's your favorite skateboarder? And Bill Danforth has wisely said, the kid who just started today. That's my favorite skateboarder. That's what Bill says. That's a great attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a super great attitude. I like the ones who rip, but are also capable of being encouraging to other people.
I like that a lot too.
It's hard to pull off.
It is.
Yeah, it's hard to pull off.
I don't see that very often, honestly.
Have you seen it recently?
I'm trying to think. Casper's like that. My guy Casper is like that.
Yes, he
Super
is.
kind.
Casper is like that.
Yes.
That's Casper Jones
Yes.
with Life Skateboards.
Yes.
He is like that.
Yes.
Yeah. People who rip but are really encouraging.
Yeah.
You know, Casper's interesting because Casper works every day pressing and cutting skateboards for Life Skateboards. But he's not like a clout guy, is he?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well,
but I don't
does
feel
Casper
like he
have?
is.
You know, he has a huge Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna look at. I think he has like 30,000 followers or something crazy.
Yeah, his name on Instagram is it Strange Casper?
Yeah,
or
Strange.
Stranger Casper?
Stranger Casper.
Stranger?
Strange. We're looking.
We're looking it
Please
up.
hold.
Yes, please hold. Yeah, Casper's got a big Instagram, but he does a lot of like talk to the camera.
Yeah.
This is my philosophy. This is my experience stuff. But he's not. He just doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to shut it down. Yeah, Stranger Casper.
He's got 23.3 thousand followers, which is a lot.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything like that.
I don't even think I have 1,000.
I don't know. Let's see. Oh, I can't unlock.
Follow back. Yes, I wasn't following him.
Wow.
23.3001 followers now.
Nice. Yeah, well, we're here to talk anything skateboarding or not skateboarding related. We're just sitting here for a few minutes while it turns out that one lav mic is now charged up perfectly. The other one is still taking a drink.
Taking a drink.
Yeah. So
all right, let's do. I have a question for you. What's your favorite skateboarding trick?
What, me?
Yes.
What
if you could only do one for the rest of your life?
Oh.
If you were relegated.
Okay. I have to ask this.
Go ahead.
Are the basics still intact?
Yes, of
steering,
course.
How about being able to slide? Can I still
Yes,
slide
you can
front and back
yes,
side?
of course.
All
yes.
right. So tricks.
Yes, actual tricks.
Okay, well, what constitutes a trick?
I don't know. Just
Okay, so first blush
Yes.
on this without a lot of information to go on.
yes.
The ollie.
Okay.
I mean it.
Let's start with here. You can do ollies. You can do
Oh.
slides.
Oh, to me, the
But
ollie
like
is
a trick.
okay. So for me, an ollie is a thing of complete amazingness. It really is. Like, so trick.
Yeah. This is you're
What
you're
about-
asking the right questions. I just wasn't prepared for that.
So
Go
if
ahead.
if I only could do one trick on a skateboard, can I still frontside grind, backside grind?
No.
Aha. Frontside grinds.
Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
Just frontside slashers.
Yeah. Let me just
Just
you
front
can
side,
just slash
your back
front
truck
side.
hitting the coping. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like what's his name? Hackett.
Ah.
Yeah. Like throwing frontsies. 100%.
Fronted.
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 Fronted grad.
Merry Christmas, everyone. It's good to be with you today.
Yes.
It's the CapmLew experience here. Thanks, Luke. we're up in the upper sanctum on it's a cold winter blustering
tundral
Arctic bomb
blast
storm. They called it a bomb.
They called it a bomb.
A bomb cyclone.
Dude, where do they get off?
It's not the first bomb cyclone that I've been through.
No.
I think the last one was in 2013. And a memorable winter because I was getting repairs done to my bus. I had a bus.
Yes.
And so that was a fun time driving up to Indiana, balmy Indiana.
Beautiful balmy
in a
palm
bus
trees.
and in cars to pick up buses, and my friend Donnie helping me out to get that done. And it drove us to the point of breakdown.
Yeah.
Trying to get up to Indiana, to Rochester, Indiana, where the bus was being fixed, hydraulic something was going on, and
Yes.
yada yada yada. It never ends when you own. It was a Metro bus that I had fitted with benches and a couch in the back and a couch on the side, and had been using for skate trips and stuff. And I wound up scrapping it for almost $3,000
Oh.
after losing like 10 grand.
Think about the value, though.
The experiences were good.
Yes.
What was I gonna look up?
I don't know. I was looking up the coldest.
Bomb cyclones.
Oh yeah, bomb cyclone.
Bomb cyclone. That's today's experience. We're in the middle of an Arctic blast of Arctic air.
Okay.
It's fine. Roads are kind of dicey. Not going out. Calling the game. Canceled tonight's sinners only meeting.
Yes.
Sinners only is canceled, gentlemen. And just gonna let's just play it close to the vest. Have a great Christmas, and we'll regroup when the temperatures are above 5 degrees.
Yeah. Holy crap.
It's not that cold. It's not that cold. I mean, we used to do horse chores when I was growing up. Grew up on a horse farm.
You know what I was thinking about today? I was out shoveling my walk and stuff, and I was like, if I didn't know what temperature it was, I would just be outside doing stuff, and I would just have this feeling like, oh, it's a little chilly out, man. Man, the wind is really whipping right now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not like you're dying of. It's not like you're dying.
Well, it didn't. Greetings to Bradley Need. Love you, Brad.
Hi, Brad.
It didn't snow enough to shovel. It's blowing
yes.
so hard.
Right.
Like the steps got shoveled today.
Right.
Not by me. I focused on basically cuddling up on the couch with Rocco, and I was like, day is called. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Took a call from Arizona. Enjoyed talking skate stuff for a minute.
Yes.
And cast a glance over at my rider, which is right there.
Yes.
Thought, yep, see you in a few days, buddy.
Later.
Yep. And you know what else is really cool is I want to get a concrete sander. And I want to sand the flat bottoms of my backyard DIY. I want to make them nice and improved smoothness, because there was a wobbly pour. I didn't have an experienced crew doing my pour. And I mean, really good job, guys, for where we were all at with concrete work. It's 12 yards of concrete that was poured by a bunch of nebbishes.
Nebbishes.
We were not experienced concrete guys, and we got something that's definitely skatable.
Yeah.
Not a horrible thing to skate. Ooh, my, windy.
Well, and dude, probably with just another hour, if we had hit it with some steel trowels at the end there.
If we had hit it 40 minutes earlier with the steel trowels.
Yeah, that might
The
have.
first pour, I can't remember which pour it was, but I had to teach people how to screed, and like teaching them how to screed when you're doing the flat bottoms of a thing. And some of the help were sons of mine, and between sons and dads, at the adolescent phase, they were teenagers at the time. There can be some, wires not touching, in terms of little sparks, and and you don't want to kick your kids off of a DIY pour in your backyard. And I didn't need to kick my kids off of it, but I had thoughts like, all right, this is good for them, and the memories are good and it's skatable. But if I get a concrete sander back there and run it on those flat bottoms, I will have no regrets. It'll make them so much nicer and take up some of the places where the cream's spalling off of them.
Oh, yeah, that's probably what's happening.
Yeah, the cream is spalling off of it. That's just normal it's not draining right, and it's 7 years old now.
No, surely not. Really?
Yeah, I think it's 7 years old.
That's dark.
I think it was 2015.
Moved to slow movement forward of time.
It's fine, yes. There's something poetic that was once said about that. Do I remember what it was? No.
No.
But I know it was said.
Don't worry about
by
it.
that one guy that one time. So, ever onward, the soft claw of time.
The soft claw.
I don't know. So, I did hang a giant snowflake. That's a visual representation of the season. So, enjoy. I thought that was a real coup. I did. I thought I was really nailing it on that. It looks dumb. But, I mean, that's fine.
It's great. I like it. It's aesthetically pleasing.
So yeah, I want to get a concrete smoother, some smoothing action on that. And you can't tell me that with those discs going and you get that sanded and you're like, what if we ran that up the thresholds just a little bit?
Yeah.
Like,
I do wonder.
How much less rub bricking could we find ourselves doing? We'll just run this up a little bit here.
Yes.
Just touch up there and see how that goes. Probably won't. Probably take the thing and send it spinning. Probably grabbing.
Yeah.
Its soft claw will grab. So, but yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that this winter and get that thing smoothed out a little bit. That'll be deluxe.
Well, dude, I wonder even if you did it after like an inch of snow, and so it was always lubricating itself with
be
water.
Less dusty. That's a nice idea.
I'm just saying, or maybe in the spring with a nice warm
rain. Are you
rain.
supposed to have a wet surface when you use one of those? I don't think so.
I think it depends on the thing, probably.
I will learn when I rent one.
Yes.
That's what'll happen.
And I wonder if they're horizontal dealios or if they're cylindrical dealios.
Well, I know that they've got horizontal disc style concrete sanders
that you can rent.
That you walk behind.
Yes.
And you move them.
Yeah.
You get the Zamboni action going there.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I don't want... The transitions are pretty good.
Yeah.
I could skim coat or I could just directly paint those, but I want to paint it. And then probably, I don't know. If I could, I'd build an entire pole barn over the entire thing.
The zoning.
Dude, why not zone it? Why not go for it?
Dude, I don't know.
Money.
Yeah, that's pretty much why. Yeah, that's
why I never did that. It's why I dropped a 10 by 20 shed and why I built a lean-to in front of it. Yeah.
Right.
And because I don't have to fuss with zoning for those. That's fine. Somebody told me that you don't have to do code if it's just attached to the concrete and it's sitting on top of it. I have blacktop on top of a concrete slab. And if I chipped away the blacktop and mounted all the way through the blacktop to the concrete demonstrably and did it well, sounds like it would still rip away in a big wind. So I'm
in a bomb cyclone.
In a bomb cyclone scenario.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna not do that.
Like a trampoline. Your huge 50 by 75 foot building just in the wind.
That happens. That happens when you do them right. That happens.
Yeah, it's gnarly, dude.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, don't want to do that. I don't want to mess around with stuff that's gonna blow away or fall down or whatever.
Yes.
So,
right.
So after all this wind is done, I'll go out and survey. I battened down my shed relatively well, so we should be pretty good.
It was blustery.
It's blustery. It's fine. It'll be springtime really soon. Today is the 23rd. That means today we have more sunlight than we had yesterday.
Right.
It's starting up.
Praise God.
And spring is going to be charging up. by February, you start getting those 40 to 60 degree days here in Cincinnati.
Well, dude, next week I think it's almost going to be 60 and rainy. That's insane, dude.
Yes.
It really is.
And it makes me want to just find an overhang somewhere with a bump to wall and
I know.
just go do wall rides or go and do. I don't like slappies.
You really don't like
Now,
slapping?
okay, let me clarify.
Yeah,
Because
well,
you know what,
we
Luke,
need
I
to
think
talk
I
about
owe
this.
you an explanation.
Yeah, please.
Right?
This is bothering me.
Yeah, okay. I don't like stopping.
Yeah, okay.
I don't like to stop.
Okay.
So when I'm skateboarding, doing slappies, a lot of times it means stopping.
Do you find yourself stopping a lot when you slap?
Well, front side I can get on there really well, and used to be I could slappy backside better than front side, but I haven't done a good backside slappy in years. It feels like years and years and years.
Right.
And it fades in and out for me. Like
right.
All of a sudden, I don't know. Was there a trick I started doing it I hadn't done in a long time?
You did an air over a tabletop the other day, which I was very pleased with.
I was trying to think about, okay, like here's one, like on a mini half pipe, backside feeble, come up, lap a backside feeble, and then back to faggy, right?
Yes.
No big deal.
Feeble faggy.
I don't do those very often, but then I'll all of a sudden come out and I'm like, you know, and do them. I never do. So that's one that comes out of hiding now and then. Just big, high quality front side 180 ollies where I'm off the ground by over a foot. You know, like all of a sudden they come out of nowhere and I'm doing them again.
It's so sick.
The new mold that we're going to work up this spring will be a shorter mold for snappier boards that are still wider than they ought to be.
Yes.
That's going to be neat.
Wider than they ought
it's going to be 14 to 14 and a quarter wheelbase.
Oof, yes.
It's going to be snappy.
Those are so short.
Yeah.
14
and a half. It'll go out to 14 and a half. I mean, dude, this one I'm riding right now is a 14 and 3/4.
Yeah, that's exactly where God intended every single wheelbase ever created to be.
I do
100%.
like it. Yeah. But I made myself a 14 and a half prototype.
They're not bad.
I liked it because it's easier to ollie.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It is.
Not a lot. You know, another thing that makes them easier to ollie, choke up or don't.
Yeah.
Or just time it. Or don't ollie the same height.
Well, and you can
then you'll be ollieing the same height anyway.
You can get used to you just got to give it a couple days. You got to give it a couple days. You just give it a couple days. Just get used to it. It's not a horrible board.
I'm still looking forward to making my cleanest mold yet.
Or calibrate your board with ball bearings underneath your trucks. To get it perfectly balanced for every single trick that you do. And you can pick whichever one. I don't know. I can't remember which one's right now. Just saying it's an option for all of our high-tech needs. Just calibrate.
I'm not saying 1,000 things.
And yet you're saying all of them by saying nothing.
I'm not saying 1,000 different things, but when it comes to because, like, I mean, I ride with my front truck wedged, let me think here.
Good.
3/4 of an inch. And my back truck has risers 1/4 of an inch. Okay?
Yes.
So I throw an extra 1/8 in the front, so my board, the front is higher than the back.
Yes.
And with tall-tailed boards, what that does is it takes your tail and it puts it just a little bit closer to the ground for a faster pop.
Yes.
That way, you get to have a tall tail on your board for leverage and all that silliness that I don't need because I'm not doing, like, interesting things. And the people who do need it don't need it because they have actual skill and ability to adapt through discipline of practice.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And I just like boards that have a lot of contour.
Yeah.
I like a lot of contour on my boards. Here's one of my riders here, and I like deep concave, and I cannot lie.
Is that one of your molds?
This is Life Concave.
Okay, that's a good concave. Huh?
It's a good concave. Maybe this looks like No, this is life. I can
Okay.
tell because it's flat from here to here.
Okay, yeah.
And
Yours-
the fickle concave has curve throughout there. And it's also flat from here to here.
Yep.
Like it's got a nice transitions though. Really long transition. Longer than
You know,
your average board.
that's actually a question I've never asked before. Do you know the history on the concave of boards? Because surfboards are flat. And in the beginning, they were all flat. So who started putting curves in them? It's actually a good question.
All right, well, the official story is the warp tail.
Was that a model of skateboard?
Yeah, that's
The warp tail?
Now, the thing about official stories is, so what they started doing BITD,
Okay.
back in the day, they started taking the flat oak
Mm-hmm.
or ash boards that they were skating,
Okay.
and they started adding a wedge to the tail,
Yeah.
and they would glue that wedge down and get a good bond, and then they would shave away underneath it.
Yes.
Now, you know that glue bond is going to be under a lot of strain,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But that's what they did.
Okay.
In fact, in the beginning, they might have left it flat for you to wear it down yourself. I don't know.
Sure.
Something Stacy Peralta, something warp tail.
Yes.
And then they started to take the boards long way, and
Yeah.
Salba had one of the very first. Steve Alba had one of the very first that actually had a concave that had been wallered out with a gouge.
Okay.
You know, and so that gouged concave and that wedged warp tail were your first. But you know what? That's probably not true, because the real story of innovation in skateboarding,
Yes.
usually what's known as a company, like the company line,
Yeah.
the mainstream narrative, is like owned. The airwaves are owned by the media
Right.
in skateboarding. So I don't, but that's the warp tail was the first wedged up, built up kicktail.
Sure.
And I bet you that someone was doing a version of that earlier, but surfboards do remain largely flat.
I've never
They
seen a
haven't-
surfboard with a concave in it.
They
ever.
haven't gone for concave on surfboards.
Which is actually a good idea. Well, no, it would work. I was going to say it would go through the water perhaps differently, but that would be sick with a little bit of concave in the board. You would sit lower in the water, mayhaps.
By like a quarter or half inch.
Even if it was 3 inches, I feel like it's worth it. Says the guy who's only surfed 3 times, but loved every minute of it in my heart. I'm a true surfer. I really do like surfing. I've only done it thrice, but I had such a good time.
I don't even have questions for that.
Yeah, we're done. That's it. We're done.
I don't.
Shut it down.
I don't. I just want to run away from that one. No, but when it comes to modern boards, you had the pressed laminate skateboard with a kicktail. I'd really give that to the 80s. I mean, it was 1985 when I got my first board, and it was some form of plywood that was kicked. So
What was the first board that transitioned from just like flat upturned tail to flat piece with no nose? When did it start? When did we start developing noses?
I'm gonna say that the first well-known person to be messing with nose kick, was Paul Schmidt.
That's cool.
Ed Templeton, Paul Schmidt, that era. They started. Now the first board I saw, I don't know if Schmidt did it, but it was Chris Miller's board.
Okay.
Probably 1987, 88. That board had like a 3-inch nose, but it had a real kick to it.
Oh.
I had that one, and then I got another one, brand new. They chipped.
Yeah.
That was a time during which the boards really chipped.
Okay.
Chipping was a big bummer.
Right.
And I actually went from pursuing boards like that. Around 1989, Mike Valley came out with his World Industry board, which was designed by Rodney Mullen, that gave you the first kind of popsicle shaped board. It was wider in the front than it was in the back.
Okay.
Could not get used to that. Skated it backward.
Yes.
Got one used. I got a used Chris Miller. People started giving me their used boards. Guys who were in like the Thrasher video parts back then were just their name at the bottom, and then they would do a few tricks. There was another guy's name at the bottom.
Yeah.
That was a great format.
Oh.
That was like skateboarding, like everyone could get into those.
Sure.
And they made a lot of those videos, and they were really fun to watch.
Sure.
People from your area would be in them.
Right.
Don Carey, Mike Connolly, and Mike Connolly gave me a board or two during that time, and I did. I got a Chris Miller, and then I got an unused one.
Okay.
And I couldn't get used to it, and it chipped, and it was very disappointing. And it was also hot pink.
Ah.
I do not like fancy colors.
Yes.
And then I got a used Mike V Barnyard.
Okay. Yes. Oh, yeah.
And I even have VHS footage of me landing a kickflip on it. When the kickflip was
sick,
first
dude.
becoming a thing. Just like rolling it over,
yes.
you know, and
right.
With 65 millimeter wheels with a 1/2 inch riser, you know, this was that era.
Yes.
And then I got a new one of those, and it was like a green turquoise color that I also didn't like I didn't like new boards very much.
Right.
I'd rather have 5 used boards than have 1 or 2 new boards. Yeah, so I skated those. It was a hard time. It's winter skating when I was on the barnyard in that footage.
Yes.
It's terrible. Awful.
Sounds horrible, dude.
I had to travel like 25 minutes to even be skating with anyone.
Right.
So by the time I got there,
you're like already bummed out.
Well, you're like
exhausted.
You don't get to do it enough to get really, really good at it. And being really, really good at it became really, really important.
Right.
I could see it becoming super important to be really good at it.
Right.
And then there was a whole party scene and a wild living scene that I wasn't part of.
Sure.
And I didn't want anything to do with that. Well, I guess I did want something to do with it, and I guess I did start having something to do with it. But it was kind of kegger in the woods sort of a deal. I was never a kegger in the woods kind of guy because, you know, I don't know, have your friend get really sick or someone break their leg, get run over by a truck at a kegger in the woods, you know.
Did that happen?
Things like that happened.
Yeah.
And things like that would happen like it was wild. It was too wild for me.
Yeah, like even then you're realizing like
as
this
a kid,
is such a bad idea.
As a kid,
yeah,
I was like, these are bad ideas.
Right, don't do that.
I don't want to do that, you know.
Yeah, dude.
And then in the 90s, I was a God-fearing man, starting my family. I got married in 92, and I just wanted to become a carpenter or like work with my hands and kind of make up for what I thought was a relatively misspent youth. And I wanted to be a guy who could do things and help people. Got a little bit sidetracked from that when I went into Christian ministry I guess I spent a decade of my life with professional Christian ministry aspirations.
I thought it was more than a decade. Only a
No,
decade?
I think it was from 96 until 2007.
Dude, you were in the glory days of like youth pastor. Beautiful. Like, you must have been the cream of the crop, dude. With your beard and the bald head and the beanie, the skateboarding background, punk rock background. You were just what they were looking for. That's so funny. I can only imagine.
And a lot of people sit with me for coffee and tell me stuff like that.
They're like, you're perfect, bro.
Words like foremost.
Yeah, foremost.
When you hear words like on the national scene.
Oh no, dude. Yes.
People want to like write books with you or something like that.
Yes.
I'm like, bro, I'm in my 20s. Like,
yeah.
I'm only in my 30s. I don't even know anything.
Right. We're not even done cooking yet, bro.
I don't know how to cook to this day.
Yes.
Well, what you do if you want to cook is just buy a big old bag of lightly salted almonds and some boiled eggs from the gas station.
Just eat them.
And some lunch meat.
Dude.
What you're going to do is you're going to open all of those packages, and then in some combination of sequence, you're going to eat all of those things.
And you've cooked.
And you have no...
You've cooked. No, that was it. You cooked.
You've entirely failed to cook. But you were there.
Yeah. And you got a lot of protein, bro.
You gave it all you gave it all you had.
And you might get a crash because you didn't eat any sugar, but it's fine. You push through.
That's right.
Exactly.
Hey, today's live Facebook video is brought to you by Life Skateboards.
Yes.
Skateboards for your life. They usually say get a life skateboards, but I said something else. What was it? I wrote it down.
I thought it was skateboards for your life.
I thought get a life was a really condescending and snarky thing to say to people.
Just, dude, Sam just popped on right when you said that. That's so funny.
So funny.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Sam. I was just saying how I remember I thought of something to say instead of get a life. I wrote it down in here somewhere. But I can barely remember what it was, and I thought, that's a better way for me to say it. I wonder if I'll find it. Huh. Yeah.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, remember we looked it up in this book?
I like it. Sam says, what happened?
Oh, nothing happened. I was just saying this live Facebook is brought to you by Life Skateboards. And then I was like, we usually say get a life. And and then I was like, but I thought of another way to say it.
Oh, you writing in Hebrew in here?
It happens. Don't tell Kanye.
Don't tell Kanye. He mumbles under his breath. Poor Kanye, dude. Oh, the guy has jumped the shark. Oh, that's hilarious.
I was not paying attention to that, and my wife, who is less interested in those things than, nobody should be interested in that stuff. And my wife brought it up on a car trip, and we went on a deep dive to find out what was going on, and then we looked for a way to deep dive the other way.
And what do you mean?
This is a sad time in our life. I think we spent so long making yeah, I got it. Yeah, be a lifer. Yeah, be a lifer. Become a lifer. Get yourself a Life Skateboards. Yeah, that's good. I like it. I used to have a blog. It's gone. It's been subsumed by the rising tides of the internet. That was called Aging Lifer Skateboarder. That was my .blogspot.com. I think I got a .com for it for a while, and all the essays I wrote that were on it they're gone now. They've been once again subsumed by the rising tides of the internet. The soft claw of time.
The soft claw
has risen, and what's
subsumed?
What's an antonym for firmly?
An antonym softly?
It's weak, clammy hand has grasped.
Right.
Got Holt on. My old blogs. Aging Lifer Skateboarder was one of my online monikers. Back when I used to write things like, I did a whole article on Mongo pushing, when a person pushes with their front foot.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys. I think a lot of us can barely remember. Let me get you right there. You got some schmutz on your face.
You got some schmutz.
What do you call it? There was a whole lot of just like inordinately conformity-driven culture in skateboarding when I moved to Cincinnati. It had been going on for a long time, but previous to living in Cincinnati, I had lived in Kentucky and Florida. So before I moved to Cincinnati, I lived in Kentucky for about 7 years, growing up in New York. Born in South Bend, Indiana, 5 years old, moved to New York, learned how to speak fluent a-hole. And then from New York, I went to Kentucky and just blue collar and like that. And skating was not, I was like 5th on the list, you know?
Yeah.
And then from Kentucky, I moved to Florida for a year. And in Florida, I skated with, I had a skate shop record store right across from where I lived, and had a really enjoyable time, you know, farting around with skateboarding. I organized like a really fun skateboarding competition where there were prizes, of course, for best run and, you know, first, second, third, like that. But then the big prizes went to the kid with the worst board, or to the hardest slam, or the most improved. And it was all by audience applause.
Yes.
And everyone was just super stoked. We had a great time. And I took my run, since I was the organizer. My run was not a run in the competition at all.
Nice.
And I was always wearing super big, oversized overalls.
Yes.
I would put those on, and I would put my t-shirt over the top of them. And that way I had almost no clothing touching my skin. I was basically in karate pants at all times.
Yes.
And I took my run, but I wore basketball shorts underneath my my overalls.
Yes.
And so I dropped my overalls down and had my basketball shorts out, and took my run with my basketball shorts on and my overalls on my board. I did frontside grinds like that, and it was really fun. We had a really fun time. And
when was this?
1998.
Dang, dog.
It was 98. And I noticed at the time that switch skating was like the measure of a man.
The measure of a man.
Nobody was measuring anyone in that scene. It was a cool scene. You had like all kinds of people in that scene.
Yeah.
But switch skating was like the measure of a man. And I had some really encouraging skateboarders around me. They were really nice kids. They were in their like late teens, young 20s.
Sure.
And they all lived at a flop house out in Lake Mary, Florida. And I and some of my friends went out and we repaired their ramp. They had a half pipe there.
Nice.
And stocked the fridge at the flop house and repaired the ramp. And that was a really good memory. In fact, the kind of ringleader was named Seth.
Yes.
And when I named my youngest son Seth, I had that guy in mind. Not that I named him after that guy, but I remembered that guy. I remember him a lot. I never remembered his last name because I'm probably a sociopath.
What the fuck?
It's a sign.
Look at his dead eyes.
Yeah, but yeah, and then I moved from Florida to Owensboro, Kentucky, where I was a youth minister in a Methodist church, and that was it was interesting. But I wound up getting I did get fired, but without a scandal. I came away with a glowing recommendation. It was a church politics thing.
Yes.
Very painful. It's very painful, but you know, what do you expect? Actually, what you expect is probably reasonable, but that's not what happened. And there are a lot of incompetent and even evil people in youth ministry stuff. It's a bit of a tough one. I was fired for not being incompetent, and I wound up I worked for the YMCA as their like guy in the booth at their skate park, and their skate park was a double tennis court with some ramps. It was great. It was a good era for skateboarding for me. I kept a little jump and wall ride ramp on the top of my car. I had one of those Ford Taurus station wagons.
Yes, dude.
It was red, maroon.
Yes.
And it had a roof rack, and you could shove that ramp in and then run the roof racks together on it. And that thing went with me everywhere for wall rides or playing around with. It was one of those black plastic from Walmart.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You could set up on a wall and just do endless wall rides.
I want to get one of those. We should get one of those.
Yeah.
And we should cut the wedge front off of it. That's what keeps it from moving.
Yes.
Is the wedge front.
Yes.
We should cut the wedge front off, and then we should cut that apart and plastic weld it inside for stiffness, because it also finishes the box, right?
Yes.
So we can put it up against a wall, and we have luxury wall rides for as long as we want to.
Right, at your disposal.
Then we should take it and we should put it on top of my maroon station wagon now.
Yes.
Because I now have a maroon station wagon. It's a GMC Suburban, but it's on the title, says station wagon.
So there is that.
But anyways, then I went from Kentucky. I did a year there, and then we moved to Ohio, where I took a youth pastor job at. So all this time, I'm not becoming a mechanic, and I'm not becoming a house framing guy or a carpenter or anything that I value so very much nowadays. I'm not getting meaningful training in any of the trades.
Right.
And then moving to Ohio, I did 2.5 years there, and I amicably separated from the industry of Christian ministry at that time, and just took it all off grid and met in coffee shops and in homes with Christian believers at that time, and made the faith that drives so much of my mind a matter of life and relationships and how I live, instead of it being rooted in event and PR and money.
Was that the reason that you kind of changed gears from more organized and corporate style religion?
Yeah, I don't think that, look, it's not that different for people who want to be involved with Jesus and be believers and be disciples. It's not that different when they come together in a house, or there are some luxuries for the off-the-grid style of Christianity that's been growing like a weed in America. The luxuries are, there's no carpet colors to fight about,
Right.
And your grandmother didn't donate that bookshelf to this church, so there's not a whole bunch of strife and stupidity about those things.
Was there stuff like that at that time?
Oh my gosh, dude,
Really?
You have no idea.
That's insane, bro.
We had you would have like a youth room, right? So this is a youth room. It's for the youth, whatever that means, okay?
Right.
This is the room where we shove this demographic of people in. You know what, though? It's not just that. It can be really good.
Yeah, sure.
It so rarely is. And it so often is quite toxic and bad. Right? So it's a dicey thing, right?
Sure.
So anyway, you've got this youth room, and in it is this useless bookshelf that's really ornamental and like that. And you're like, man, could really use the space. Right. It's too nice to hit with paintballs and stuff like that. You can't get you can't get anything on it. So so it's like, hey man, why don't we move this into the church library?
Yeah.
Because it's a really nice shelf. Right. You would never think that would be a problem.
And it was.
Well, that thing had been donated to the youth ministry to hold, I guess, to hold in a dignified and ornamental manner whatever books they thought were just huge for youth. Yeah. Right. And in comes this guy who like that sort of thing, dude. That like the leadership of that church was like beside themselves
because you were like, can we move this?
No, because the person was so angry. Wow. And I was like, why? Because look, I did not grow up in church. Right. I had a transforming experience with Jesus. Right. So I had trouble reconciling what I read in the book and what I'm experiencing in life with a really, honestly, I find it sad, if not, when I don't find it silly, I find it sad. Yeah. Being angry at each other about stuff. Right. Stuff that is so far from the center of what this is about. Right. And so angry, dude. Like, people so angry.
How did the bookshelf resolve?
I couldn't believe it, dude. I had to actually put my foot down about a bookshelf.
And you were like, no, this has to leave.
I was like, I actually said to the leadership of the church that was interfacing with me. Yeah. I had to say to him, like, man, guys, like, they say pick your hills to die on, but it looks like you guys haven't died on a single hill in, like, forever.
Yeah,
so
like the last 40
do
years.
it with the bookshelf as a warm-up, because you got bigger fish to fry. These kids are... You got kids that are coming, that need to come off drugs or need to come out of really abusive or terrible situations.
Right.
And at the previous church, I had really, the pastor of that church, the church I got fired at, pastor of that church sat me down for a talking to.
Yes.
He was really angry at me. He was angry with me.
Was it about the bookshelf?
No, this was about a hill to die on.
Okay.
There was a situation where one of the young youth, junior high age, the internet was brand new.
Yes.
It was chat rooms.
Yeah.
And one of the young youth had gotten involved in a chat room with a pedophile.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And so this was one of those situations.
Yes.
I was fired from this church because of this kind of thing.
Okay.
So this was what this must not happen. It cannot be. You know, like that.
Right.
Okay. So the kid got accessed by a chomo on a chat room back when that's all the internet was.
Right, of course.
And he told his parents.
Okay.
And me.
Okay.
So I was trying to offer support to this kid.
Okay.
And go over and be some support.
Right.
But his dad, like, punched him in the face.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The kid punched the kid in the face.
No.
Yeah. So as a mandated reporter, I had to report. So I reported it to the leadership of the church for them to mandated report on behalf of the church to the right and the social worker and like that. So the social worker got talked to.
Right.
And I got hauled into the office and told that this must not happen. We cannot have this. And I thought, well, then what are we here for, bro?
Seriously, when they said this must not happen, you're saying
like we just can't have this was all they were saying, like over and over again. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, bro, this has us, man. Like, we have to deal with this, man. There's some stuff you got to deal with head on, and that was the stuff that really jammed them up. But that's exactly the stuff that we're supposed to be dealing with and be about, you know. And so what I saw was, here's a church that's willing to fight tooth and nail to the death. And I'm talking about the American church, you know, institutional, willing to fight to the death about some legacy gift to the church of things like a bookshelf or something like that. You know, small, petty things.
Yes.
But they don't have an ounce of fight in them about the innocence of children or really engaging in any deep and meaningful way the obstacles that are set up in the way of, you know, like that. And I just was like, you know what, this isn't a fit.
Right.
And so as I was getting fired from that church, you know, and like, you know, just looking, I was like, you know, this is right where I want to be in terms of like alignment.
Right.
I want to be a person who, you know, like this fits the alignment that I read in the scripture. This fits the experience of Jesus that I'm having spiritually. And so I just went with it, and I was like, well, let's see where it takes me.
Sure.
And I did wind up here in Ohio at that church. It was a very intense series of experiences that I'd love to debrief from, but it was 2.5 years of mayhem. That youth ministry was only happening for the first 9 months.
Okay.
The next, like, year.
What were you doing?
I was treading water while the leadership of that church decided whether they would vote yes or no to basically Jesus.
It
was nuts, dude. It was nuts. They were like, we can't have these kids studying the scripture and getting excited about Jesus. And I was like, I mean, and I was a real professional. I was like, I am here as an extension of the adults of this church wanting their kids to be disciples. Right. And that means we get into scripture and we begin to listen to what it's saying and begin to evaluate those things. Right. And make our own, especially senior high, make our own. Junior high was sick. Right. In that church, junior high was sick because it was almost entirely how many marshmallows and and paintball, and I mean, it was sick. I mean, that's the good stuff.
Yeah, right.
Junior high ministry is super fun, man, because they operate like a flock.
Yeah, they're like
you have this.
gaggle.
You want to just gaggle them in a giant group, and you want to keep doing stuff that mixes them all up.
Yeah.
And you spread the jocks out over teams, and then you teach them how to help their weakest link, and like that. I'm talking paintball strategy, right? That stuff's awesome.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also another thing that was awesome was the people who helped, the adults who helped with those things,
right,
are always sitting up late asking questions about the Bible.
That's awesome.
And I always was like, it was such an amazing thing to see these adults getting challenged and equipped to be disciples of Jesus in the world,
Yeah.
I love that stuff. You can see I still love that stuff.
Absolutely.
But being on staff in an organized, because money, the love of it, the love of money runs deep in American Christendom.
Yes.
And that's a deal breaker for me. And so after going 2.5 years in Ohio, Cincinnati area, we joined a house group network, like a national house church network.
Yeah.
But then they kicked me out because I didn't believe that house churches were better than the institutional churches. I just didn't even believe it.
Yeah, dude.
Because you get the exact same thing.
Yeah, right.
If you meet in a home, you wind up hitting the exact same walls of adultery, and you got chomos are coming after the kids and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But in a house setting, it's so much easier to stop that, to shut that stuff down.
Right.
So much easier because you're not weighed down with the legacy of loving money.
Yeah.
And you have a fresh start.
Sure.
And so we did that for 22. Let me think. 2002. It's 20 years this year.
That's crazy.
And our church stopped being a house church a couple years ago.
1.5.
And is now we joined together with Cincinnati Urban Promise, and our church meets at a urban preschool and like a food pantry.
Yeah, right.
So, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love what's going on there, and I'm not in leadership in the church. I felt a bit disqualified from leadership in the church, honestly, because I spent some years feeling real cussy and fussy. I did, and I feel like I don't exhibit the kind of patience that a pastoral person ought to have in many circumstances. So
you poor bastard.
It's what it is, bro. Is what it is.
I love it. That's so funny. Let me ask you this: when you were at that church where it was 2 years, but after the first year you were kind of in limbo, was it a whole bunch of people telling you oh dude, we think you're so good and great, we just have to make a couple decisions, and you were just floating in some ethereal plane for a year? No.
You talking about the one that was in Ohio?
Yeah.
No. Actually, I'm gonna fire this bad boy up.
Fire it up. We could, hey, really quick.
Yeah.
We could just pull this down and put it onto Podbeam.
You're telling me, as I put this lav mic on, that we can actually pull down the audio off of this and put it on Podbean?
We can.
I mean, but can we?
I did it.
What is today? It's December 23rd.
Yeah.
We're starting off an episode of the CapmLew podcast, brought to you by Life Skateboards.
Yes.
And probably by something else, because it's...
Let me hit to see more on Jeff Wiseman's comment. I want to see what he says.
All right, we've got a comment on we've had a Facebook up for a while. Let's see here. Front porch. It's true. You can talk to God on your front porch. I look at the sky and have a person. Yes, you can. Paying a church. Yeah, church tithe. Dealing with the personalities. Everyone's a member of that church. Spiritual. I believe in God. I believe in the devil. I'm smart enough to know that there you go. Well, I'll tell you this. What I'd say to the person, I meet a lot of folks in life who, Luke and I have been talking about my history with church work, being in youth ministry and young adult ministry for about a decade back in the 90s and early 2000s. And leading up to, and one thing I'll say about this, I meet a lot of folks who are like, well, you know, my church is the woods, and when I go out to hunt, that's where I'm with God. And I'm like, not a bad play.
Yeah.
Not a bad play.
Sure.
However, Jesus said in, I think it's in Matthew 18, wherever two or more are gathered in my name, there I am with them. And from my reading and my living, for me, the word church it's tricky in English because of all the baggage it carries, all the hypocrisy through the years.
Yeah.
But in my experience, church means a gathering. That's what the Greek word meant. And Jesus said where they're gathered in my name, and I think about that, and I don't know if I'm exactly on the best ecclesiological grounds here, you know, theologically, but I'm just going to throw this out there and pay the price when the man comes around. When Jesus says in my name, I tend to think that's not so much as throwing the words in Jesus' name on the beginning and end of it, as it is about having a disposition of heart, an attitude of mind that are oriented around wanting to find out, know, experience Jesus. Jesus is the most important person in all of history. Just is. That's well evidenced as a claim.
Yes.
And when your curiosity about Jesus causes you to look to him and learn from him, and he says in Matthew 11:28, when you get a person or two or three who come together because of Matthew 11:28, where Jesus says this, he goes, come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And, you know, and someone's like, yoke? I don't want to wear a yoke. I'm not a donkey. First, yes, you are.
Stop being an ass.
Well, but also, if you don't want that, you don't have to take that yoke on you. But when it comes to my operating concept definition of church, it's formed by the scripture. Now, what happens out there when you're alone and you're hunting blind and you feel the closeness of God? Well, that's because God loves you. But what happens when two or more gather in his name? Also because God loves you. But that's church. And so by the time there's three people there, I've already checked the box that we also, someone smarter than me said, church is like your last name. Okay, my last name is Ross. Nobody ever comes up to me and asks me where I go to Ross. I am the church along with all these other fools.
Yeah.
In that sense, the word church doesn't mean gathering.
Yeah.
As much as it means what I'll call a communion.
Sure.
A bunch of people who are at the same table, eating the same food.
Yeah.
Pulling from the same supply of grace. And so, yeah, this whole church thing, it's really gotten twisted, mostly by the love of money. It is. It's a bummer. I do have feelings. I do feel some sort of way about that. But that's why my family and I started doing house church, which at one point had 98 people in it. Was not a small group of people, and it was not absent a whole bunch of drama the whole way along. And people will always find ways to fight with each other. People will always find ways to be shifty. If they're going to shift, they're going to shift, you know. And so, yeah, being house-based and off that grid did not solve human nature, you know.
I really agree with you. That's I'm enjoying hearing you talk about this, because I think a lot of people who go the more house-based route think that they're going to circumvent many of the situations that either they've heard about or experienced personally. And
what's even tough about that, Luke, is a lot of people go the non-institutional home-based route,
right?
Because they're bitter, and they think that by doing that they're going to not be hurt again, or not experience the grinding, painful reality that we are people and that we have nasty intentions. Oftentimes we're a mix of those things,
right?
And that's not what house church meant to me at all. I never thought differently. I just was glad that I wouldn't be serving Jesus in a state of rebellion against institutional leaderships that didn't want kids reading their Bibles.
Right. Yes.
Didn't want grown-ups reading and learning straight from Jesus.
Right.
And so I just didn't want to be, Jesus taught us not to put new wine in old wineskins, because then the skins burst, they're ruined.
Right.
And the wine is spilled and it's ruined.
Right.
And I saw that trying to interface with these institutional models, I could hear the stitching creak. I could hear it creak. And so I didn't want to keep going and keep freaking out these people who literally, they're like, are you telling me that I've got it wrong? And I'm like, dude, getting it wrong is what we cut our teeth on, man.
Yeah, come on.
If we're resistant to the idea that we've got it wrong, then we're not going to get along with what Jesus was all about. You know?
Sure.
Jesus was all about, and
duh.
not only do you have it wrong, there are going to be aspects to degrees to which you don't ever get it right.
Sure.
And so he was crucified.
Right.
This is important.
Right.
You should think about this.
Yeah.
Like, take a little time. Take a little time in between screaming at one another about money.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Right.
And
when you have a free moment.
Yeah. So. But I had folks come to me and are like, we should start a new thing, and I'm like, all right, and then they were really angry about the way that things were, and I'm like, yeah, but don't you understand that all the stuff that like we see that's wrong is stuff, it comes from inside us. And so expecting something different when we're not different, I mean, it's going to be mayhem until the man comes around. And then the real story gets told.
Right.
So until then, it's cool. I'm out here. So even when we were part of a house church network that was gung ho and also called me the foremost or whatever, like back then, it took just a little while until they were totally kicking me out.
Yeah, right.
They were freaked out by me because
you wouldn't bow the knee.
No, there was a point of contention because I had a relative who was terminally ill.
Okay.
And so we were looking for a home.
Okay.
To live with them.
Okay.
To live with them in, and to do hospice and to do that.
Right.
Well, this relative was a controversial figure. They weren't a criminal. No, they were a former missionary, and the issue was that they disagreed on some small point of church stuff with the network that we were in.
Sure.
It was a really small point to me.
Yeah.
And I told him, I'm like, yeah, we're looking for a place. We're going to move into a new house. That's how I wound up in this giant Victorian, because it had handicap access. It had a first floor bathroom. Had wheelchair ramp. Had double doors. It had everything we needed to run hospice care on the first floor. Still have it. And so we were shopping for a place to move in with them, and then all of a sudden the house church group was like, you can't do that because you're going to fall under the evil influence of this other Christian guy who's also we're a mess.
Yeah, come on, man.
And again, we're not talking about criminal issues here or issues of moral stuff. We're talking about we're talking about arguments about money.
Yeah, crazy.
Because the house church group had a money concept that didn't mesh with this guy's money concept, and I'm my own man,
right?
And I didn't mesh with the house church's money concept either, but I didn't
Right.
see it as a big deal.
Sure.
And then I love some of the comments.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
I'm gonna, yeah. And so what happened was they like went ham on me, and they cut me off, which was a financial thing.
Yes.
And they cut me off, and we were fine.
Yeah.
Year and a half later, I got a call. That group had disbanded. The people in it woke up and realized that they were a cult. You know,
By
I never.
accident.
Well, you know, cults don't just start overnight.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bit of a frog in a pot type of a thing. And
Sure.
so what they had done with me is they turned the heat up a notch, and I said, "Oh, certainly no." You know, and
Right.
they were like, "How dare you say no?
I'm like,
Are you
well,
unaccountable?" That's what they said. They said I was unaccountable. I'm like, "No, I just don't agree."
Right.
Like that, there's room for that.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Well, if there isn't room for that, get out. You know,
Right.
like now, like it wasn't like I was disagreeing about the Apostles' Creed or like some central tenet of what it means to be the church. You know, I was
Sure.
just saying to him, I was like, I don't think everyone should cut a 10% gross check
Yeah.
to you. That was what the fight was over. They wanted everyone to be cutting and teaching other people to cut a 10% gross check
The
to
house
them.
church network?
Yeah, the network was really big on 10% giving, you know.
Rough, dude. Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I'm not down for that, because that's not what I'm learning when I'm reading. What actually the standard in the scripture is liberal generosity, and that can be well over 10%.
Yeah, it's way worse, bro.
Or better.
Yeah, or
because,
better, right.
But it also says if you don't want to give, then don't, because God loves a joyful giver.
Sure.
But it also says where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So you're giving, you're taking care of other people. And also, in all of my church work, giving was always about helping to meet other people's needs.
Right.
We never had a building fund.
No.
Simultaneous to me going off the grid, we had a church local here spend $56 million on nothing but a room to meet in. Well, while I was leaving behind that whole world, I was watching one of these are the premier Christian religious format.
Yes.
Well, God bless, dude, because in their gigantic hockey rink size meeting hall, you got all types of people in there. Some of them are sincere, God-loving people, and some of them are shifty, nasty, predatory people.
Right.
What are you going to do? You can't weed them out.
Right.
You know, you gotta keep rolling.
Right.
So I roll.
So we'll sort them out in the end.
Just keep rolling.
Yeah.
And right now, I don't know. I'm kind of wondering what's next.
Yeah. We'll blow up. We'll get big.
I don't like big. I believe that smallness and greatness often occupy the same space.
Yes.
And I'm not afraid of being small for a long time, or
Yeah.
even until the very end.
Sure.
And I'm not afraid of being forgotten when I'm gone, because the real story will be read in the books at the last day.
Yeah.
Really will. The true story will be told.
Hmm.
So staying small, being something that can never grow in this world is not a bad heritage.
No,
You know?
it's really not. I'm really like what you're saying about this. There's such a
You'd be cooler if you didn't.
yeah, I really would be. There's such a narrative within the house church movement that it's, and in so many ways superior to the big church dealio. And I think in some ways it is easier, because normally there aren't building funds. There's not fights about who's going to do what or what color the carpet is. But people are people, man. It's just all mayhem all the way down the line.
What's nice is if the mayhem is the people mayhem, and
Yeah,
it's not the stuff mayhem.
Exactly. Yes.
That's what's nice. Now,
Yeah.
I've known some churches that have buildings and things like that that keep a good house.
Yeah.
And
It's always nice to see.
I'm not upset by the tension that exists of saying, yeah, well, that's funny, because then you go out to a country church that acts just the right way, or even a city church.
Yeah.
That's acting like this too. It's like, And the other thing is when you think of churches, I mean, Jesus told a parable. He told a parable about wheat and weeds growing in the same field.
Yes.
And the workers asked, do you want us to go pull the weeds out?
Yeah.
And the master said, no, don't do that.
Don't touch them.
Don't mess with it.
Yes.
He says, we'll sort them out at the end. And I really like that parable. I think it's Matthew 13. Probably not. But the parable of the sower is in Matthew 13. No, it is. It's another one. He says, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares, weeds among the wheat, and went his way. But when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, then the tares also appeared. So the servants of the owner came and said to him, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have tares? He said to them, An enemy has done this. The servants said to him, Do you want us then to go and gather them up? But he said, No, lest while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them.
Yeah.
Let both grow together until the harvest, and at the time of harvest I will say to the reapers, First, gather together the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. And this, when it comes to church stuff, I'm always like, wow, dude.
Yeah.
You know what? Gonna have to wait till the end for some of this.
Yeah.
I speak out very clearly in my own time, in my own way, on things that could be very helpful to people who are like under bad leadership.
Right.
And who are under teaching that is false and bad and wrong and twists the Bible into something it doesn't say. You know, I have a lot to say about those things, and I tend to say it on Friday nights in my little group of fellow wanderers. Yeah, sinners only.
Right.
But I don't tend to fuss with these congregations and these leaderships. What are you looking at?
Dude,
Mega Church
dude.
on I Said Giant
It's
Jesus.
still there, right?
Hey, Jeff Wiseman, he comments, you
Yes.
know, one time I was on a skate mission up there.
Yes.
We were driving back down, and I said, God, please strike that thing with fire. And it was, I don't remember if it was 1 day or 2 days later, it was on fire.
It'd been struck by
I
lightning,
literally
right?
prayed on the way up out loud in a car full of skaters who weren't even, heathen skaters.
Yes.
I prayed out loud. I said, God, please strike that big butter Jesus with fire.
Yeah, it was on fire.
And it was in just like a day, it was on fire. It had been hit by lightning. And so you know what they did?
They put lightning rods on it.
They built another one with lightning rods.
Didn't it get hit again?
Oh,
I thought it got smoked twice.
I stopped paying.
Yes,
I stopped paying any
Just stop.
attention to it.
That's so funny.
I won't waste a second of my lifetime paying attention to that kind of thing.
That's so funny.
Because there is a Jesus who is in my Bible who is worth my time.
Yes.
And he's not worried about big butter Jesuses today. He's
I know.
worried about you and me and whether or not we want to get together with him.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all that matters.
Right.
And I don't fuss around with trying to pull up the wheat in the weeds and all that stuff. I don't try to sort it out. I try to stay true to what the book says. I fail to stay true to what the book says too.
Yeah.
But I try to, and I don't go in for that sort of thing, not one bit. I do dread that eventually someday someone's going to make me have to stand up and say, like, they're gonna be like, what are you not down with the program? And I'll be like, dude, I am so not down with the program. What do you think, Luke? Will this work?
I doubt it, but I got your back, bro.
It's gonna be a flipping disaster. We're working on our camera.
Schmangles.
Camera mangles. Let's see.
Mayhaps. Oh my gosh, did it really just work?
No.
Oh, it did, dude. It was better.
It would work if I did it this way. I used to be a woodworker. I don't know.
I think it helped.
Thank you, Luke. Yeah.
I always enjoy our camera renegotiations. You know, we were thinking to knit huge revolvers and put it on the hands of that big giant Jesus statue on I-75. Like, how could you knit him big enough and get him on there in the night sometime?
Giant foam
Yeah.
revolvers.
Yeah, dude.
It would be so good.
They would be so
It would be
mad.
so good.
They would be so mad.
I just try to stick to what I need to be about. Best I can figure it out.
That's so funny. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I freaking love it.
Merry Christmas, Jeff Wiseman. Thanks for being with us. Yeah, there's a time lag involved in the Facebook thing. If we can pull audio, we're not going to. We can't work that hard at this, but we have audio on the Facebook that we'd love to have put on the front of this podcast, but our lav mics were dead.
We can do it, dude. I did it. Because it pulls down a recording. You can do it off a recording. I did it.
Does it take hours and hours of sitting there?
Mine didn't take very long at all.
Does it glitch and then it's ruined and you have to do it all over again?
I can't guarantee that, but I don't think it's going to.
That would be great.
Because it's not a secondary. It's in your iPhone. The iPhone is using its own thoughts to do it.
My entire experience with it is that everything is always
Just glitching and horrible.
glitchy and a big mess.
Yes.
It's fine. Right now, that's not my experience because we've settled on a really simple format. We've got an audio going. We've got Facebook Live for what it's worth.
Yeah.
And we just keep going. And but that's the sort of stuff that formed up. Now, skateboarding has been a big part of it, and it was 2005 when an avenue opened for me to make some money. My kids got old enough to be in the car and come with me, and I got an avenue to make a very, very small amount of money, but a huge amount of satisfaction in working for skateboard brands and doing there. I could do a lot of the things I did in youth ministry. And nothing I do is minus Jesus.
Yeah, come on.
But there, I didn't have the pressure of any responsibilities for like major Christian stuff on my head. And I could just love people and be kind and just be light and be a light of the world, you know, like Jesus said, you are the light of the world. I could just be a light. And then if anyone asks me, I tell them, oh, it's because I've got hope, you know, and if they wanted to know about it, then that was fine. Like that should be legit, you know. And I'm not talking about like Mormon missionary dating where like I didn't have like a sneaky weird objectification of another person as a project thing.
Right.
I just was like, skateboarding's rad and fun, and we can really do something really fun and rad. Sure. And then if there's anything real in me that causes any degree of real curiosity in other people about what that's about, you know, if there's someone who is asking for me to talk to them about the stuff of faith, then I'm totally down for that. Yeah. And that was really pleasant for me.
Absolutely.
But the thing is that a skateboard brand is got inner workings a lot like a church. Yes. It's a group of people. Yeah. And the catty, political, weird stuff that goes on in a skateboard company or any company. I think it's worse in skateboarding because there aren't restraints. Right. You know, people are cool because they're an outlaw. So a lot of them are baby men who are doing whatever they want to whenever they want to. Right. And they're saying bomb on a plane. Oh. And that's what they live like. Yeah. And they got rewarded for that in the 90s. In the 90s, they rewarded these guys for being transgressive. Then in the later 2000s, then they came after them all for the transgressive things they said in the 90s. You had guys who weren't that guy, who acted like that guy and pretended to be that guy. Sure. And then later on, wound up getting completely like blacklisted because of the things they said in an Iron Horse interview or something like that. Yeah, dude. And it's just dark. It's sad and dark and stupid. Yeah. It's very, very stupid. Right. That we would look at the 90s skateboarders and the terrible things they said and did. Well, it was stupid back then that we thought that they were an example to follow or aspire to be like. Right. And it's stupid now that we would try to vilify them. Right. And try to destroy them for it. Right. That's just a waste of time. And we weren't even consistent either way. You know what I mean? Like everybody hated on Jason Jesse in 2016 or whatever for being a Nazi or some shit, but nobody talked about what's his name beating that gay guy
down. You know, I can't remember people's
I
names
know,
and scenarios,
I
but
know.
I'm
And
just
there are,
saying, you know.
you know, it's funny. There are so many examples among our heroes of terrible, 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 terrible behaviors.
Literally.
That, but the problem is in skateboarding is the deeper psychological reasons for why rhetorical you need these heroes.
Right.
Those are worth teasing out.
Right.
Why you needed Christian Hosoi to beat Tony Hawk, or Tony Hawk to beat Christian Hosoi in 1987.
Yes.
Why you need Rodney Mullen to be some sort of example for your life or an inspiration.
Sure.
Now, that's not to illegitimize the inspiration that these people and their achievements can bring to us, but you do know that they're basically circus performers.
Right.
Right? And you do know that the fact that someone does well on a skateboard maybe... But I'm a person personally who I'm not even comfortable, I'm not comfortable with, oh, that person rips on a skateboard, so I'm going to buy the skateboard with their name on it.
Yeah.
He's my favorite. Like, you got to understand, I'm a person, you're going to find this with me, I'm a little iconoclastic.
What's that mean?
Well, it means I kind of tear down idols.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, like, I used to go over to my friend's house and they would have all the Star Wars figures. And it was amazing to me.
Yes.
And I was jealous. And in some way, I'm jealous of people who, you know, actually could decide to go and buy all the stuff.
Right. Yes. Do you think that drives some of your iconoclasm?
Yes, I'm certain that I'm a dirty...
I saw that too.
Did you see that someone said get a life and then someone else put l'chaim?
Yeah.
L'chaim.
Yeah.
To life.
It's because Sam said get a life in Hebrew.
I know. And I didn't jump on it, but it doesn't mean get a life. It means here's to life. L'chaim.
Yes.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. L'chaim. I can't. I would be the worst Hebrew student ever.
No, you would be fine. You're smart.
Smart.
You're smart.
That's what it means. Yeah, go ahead.
But this whole thing, I'm just like, really? Like, somebody thought Consolidated was a great idea.
I know, dude. I know.
And there's guys,
I know.
and somebody thought Big Brother was a great idea.
Yeah,
and somebody thinks that, like, but you know what? There are people who think that.
Yeah, sure.
Their opinions have a certain degree of merit.
Right.
And I honestly am not interested in controversies about opinion.
Sure.
I have mine. I put them here.
Right.
If you're listening, either you're enjoying it or you're not.
Right.
If you're not enjoying it, I get that too. I listen to things I don't agree with a lot.
Right.
I'm very interested in things I don't agree with.
Sure.
So, welcome.
Right.
And I think that we made stupid people famous. I really think that we were very superficial for a very long time, and it would be great for us to deepen now.
Yeah.
And get a little bit more serious-minded,
Yes.
especially us skateboardery guys. With and I think, you know, maybe to some degree that's happening.
Sure.
I'm not sure. I don't buy it.
Yeah.
I don't buy it that skateboarding has become wholesome and tolerant.
Yeah.
I don't buy that.
That sucks.
I'm not sure I see that.
Yeah.
We'll see. It takes time.
Well,
it takes like 20 years to figure things out.
I saw something the other day that made me feel good about skateboarding. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was like you know how they have the Paralympics? They have that for skateboarding in some aspect. I saw a video of it the other day. Like people missing an arm or without legs. And
I like that.
I think it was on Thrasher.
That
I was like, that's cool.
Well, they've got that. They've got they've got a lot of inspiring, especially the blind guys are killing.
Dude, those guys are gnarly. I just saw them like.
Now, what's interesting to me is I noticed the blind skateboarders. A lot of them are doing tricks that I wouldn't choose to do.
Sure.
Because they're too hard.
I know, dude.
You know?
I know, bro.
And I think that most of those guys were seeing skaters who ripped or who aspired to rip, who are doing things that, I mean, were hard. So
sure.
It's interesting because I'm actually reluctant to give positive or negative judgments about certain things.
Bro.
I know.
It's so pink.
Strawberry ice vape.
They can't just give you like a menthol. Like, I just want mint. I want to be like I'm chewing mint gum. There's one of them, but people are buying them. It's hard to find.
Welcome to the CapmLew podcast, brought to you by Lost Mary Vapes. They're probably terrible for you.
Dude,
toxic metal.
I can smell it from here.
In your lungs.
That's metal.
That's metal. In your lungs. Yeah.
Hold on, let me hit my vape while I think about this, brother.
I'll tell you what. I watch a lot of visual media. I'm very, very interested in visual media, and among the visual media I watch that I really enjoy lately, I love watching people fix cars. I love watching people fix plumbing. Yeah. I love the dudes who do the drain clearing.
Yeah.
I love the equipment and the tools and seeing that. I love engine repair. I love the Harley repair.
Yes.
Videos and how to do things.
Yes.
Those are things that really inspire me. In skateboarding, I tend to gravitate toward weird, quirky YouTube people. Yes. Who are they have a word for it. Cringe.
Oh, the cringe sect.
They're cringy.
Yeah.
Skateboarders of. I even saw that Tom Asta,
okay,
who is a street skater of some serious achievement in the 2000s. He did he's doing YouTube, and his format is exactly a YouTube influencer format. Yeah. And I don't remember when, but in the 2000s, Tom Asta was like a major thrasher guy, and now he's got he's just, can I make this trick that I used to be able to do, or can I make this trick? It's always been hard for me talking to the camera and like that. Sure. And it relaxes me. Watching these guys, it can get really boring, and I just switch to something else. Right. But it's just interesting. Is he part of the
cringe sect of skateboarding media?
What's an opinion worth?
1,000 words. I think.
I mean, yeah, I think so. I do. I think it's part of. I do think it's part of a larger. But I think it's almost part of a like I remember when the barracks got really, really, YouTube started, and in skateboarding there was this huge controversy about what are we going to do? Who's going to buy skateboard videos anymore? And how are we supposed to make money off skateboard videos? It was at the same time that Nike had really begun to enter skateboarding as a brand. Okay. And then simultaneously, there was around 2008, there was a big, what are we going to do if the skate shops close? And I was like, whoa, yeah, who's going to push us around and shut down our park and make it unsafe for children? And, right. Well, who's gonna tell us we're wearing the wrong pants or the wrong brand of shoe, or that we bought it at the wrong store? Right. I remember feeling like that in 2008, 2010, Yes. And then